Hey guys, Dude here, trying to explain brightness, contrast, and gamma with just a simple gradient over a photo because this represents the in-game effect of these settings over just doing it to the photo because magic. Anyway, since it's on the top of the list on the Nvidia control panel, I'll start with brightness. Brightness is an option that makes colors brighter, obviously. So turning up the brightness would make a black picture turn gray, and turning down the brightness would make a white picture turn gray. So in games, brightness does not really help with visibility since the same areas of the spectrum are representing the same amount of light, just darker or lighter than usual. This ends up washing out the colors because monitors can only display a certain amount of white and a certain amount of black. So stuff that was earlier gray will be closer to the edge of the spectrum, removing detail from the scene. By turning up the brightness, we can see this effect in the fact that the yellow flowers are now just a wash of yellow. By turning down the brightness, you can clearly see that the whole left side of the photo is black. Not to be racist. As you can tell, this would not help with low light conditions, but it actually doesn't help with bright conditions either, because as I said before, brightness doesn't do anything more fancy than just making the pixels more black or more white. Moving forward at a quick pace, next on the list is contrast. Contrast is basically the amount of space between black and white, or the gray area. So with high contrast, a black photo is still black and a white photo is still white, but if you look at a gradient, you see that upping the contrast makes the black and the white bits at the ends bigger and the gray bit in the middle smaller. Lowering the contrast has the opposite effect and the whole thing basically becomes gray. Cueing the high contrast, we can clearly see that it's very hard to see anything, as it's basically like brightness is up high and also down low at the same exact time. A lot of people actually try to use contrast to see in dark areas or highly bright areas, which doesn't make any sense at all because it'll just make the bright areas all sort of look the same and the dark areas all sort of look the same. This is my transition into gamma because gamma is the setting you want to change for seeing in different lightings. Most people write off gamma as another word for brightness. However, if you look at a black or white photo, gamma does not change anything. What gamma does do is shift a gradient. So your blacks and whites are still at full quality, but grays are moved around, making gamma the ideal setting to see in different lighting. Game is too bright and you can't see anything, do not decrease the brightness, that'll just make it less blinding. It's still a gray mess. What you want to do is lower the gamma because this takes the gray areas that were reserved for darker spaces and puts them in the lighter spaces, giving you a lot more detail. We can see that upping the gamma does wash out the colors a bit, but that's just because it's a gradient. In game, it looks hecka fast AF.